What's up guys, my name is Ace, and the pre-alpha tech test for Titanfall 2 for both Xbox One as well as PS4 is now live for everybody. So this is open for anybody, no pre-order needed or anything, no early access code needed. Everybody can go download it right now and play it this weekend and get a feel for what Titanfall 2 is going to be like. And today I'm going to be sharing my top 5 beginner tips to help you guys succeed who are just jumping into this game for the very first time. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so these tips are going to be in no particular order, but this is based off of my experience both playing at Respawn Studio. We got like 4 or 5 hours of gameplay time when I was at Respawn Studio, and then I also got into the early access tech test, so I've been playing it for the past few days quite a bit, and I picked up quite a few things to help the beginners out at least. These aren't going to be advanced tips by any means. So first up, I basically just want to cover how to move around the map properly as a pilot, like when you're not in a Titan, in order to be most effective, find kills, and stay alive longer. So first up, we have to look at the map design in Titanfall 2. Basically, you're going to have pilot areas and Titan areas. Now, the pilots can go anywhere, but the Titans can't necessarily go everywhere. So there's the big open areas where it's obvious the Titans can go. You look at Boomtown, for instance. In the streets of Boomtown, that's where the Titans go. They're all over in there, and the pilots get to go between the buildings. They get to go on the rooftops, and there's a couple other little flank routes and stuff that the pilots can take where you don't see Titans, and these are the areas you want to be in as a pilot. You don't want to be out in those open areas, at least not for long. Like, maybe you can pass through them really quick if you're going from one building to another or something. But just don't linger in these open areas. That's a huge tip. I see far too many pilots that are just roaming around in these open areas, and they're just free kills for me. Instead, you want to be moving from building to building, rooftop to rooftop, or flank around. Rooftops are also going to be hot zones, so if you're ever trying to find other pilots to kill and you're kind of having a hard time, focus on rooftops. You're almost always going to find a pilot on the more common rooftops on a map, so always be ready for pilots to be on rooftops. Same thing goes when you're on a rooftop. A lot of pilots, they're going to expect you to be on rooftops. You just have to be ready for them, be ready for a flank potentially, and be ready to move. And you don't typically want to linger on the same rooftop or same window or same area for too long in this game. Use that movement to your advantage to constantly stay on the move, but also take those power positions and pick people off. Another thing I mentioned a little bit is flanking. Flanking is incredibly effective in this game. I don't know how it is so effective sometimes, but if you get on the flank, oftentimes you can pick off 3 or 4 pilots before they even realize what's happening to them. It seems like the average player, they'll set up on a rooftop or set up in a window, and they'll just look towards the middle of the map. They don't pay attention to what's going on behind them or beside them or anything along those lines. So oftentimes you can just take the long way around, take a bit of a stroll, and get behind these pilots and just pick them off very, very easily. And I highly recommend flanking as a strategy. Again, while you're flanking, make sure you're focusing on rooftops as well as windows. And you still want to be moving a little bit from cover to cover. You don't want to get caught out in the open. But generally on the outside of the map, even if it is an open area, on the outside of the map, you're generally a little bit safer than going to those open areas in the middle of the map. So that covers generally like how you want to move around the map, how to find enemy pilots, and how I find success at least while I'm playing the game. I flank around a lot, I move from cover to cover, and I stay out of those open areas as much as possible. Moving on to my second tip, make sure you're paying attention to your heads-up display and using all of the different pieces of your loadout. This is something I am guilty of quite a bit. You'll actually see it in this gameplay I'm quite guilty of. A lot of times I'll have a grenade ready to go and I just don't pay attention to it, so I never use my grenade. Or in this gameplay actually, this is a pilot versus pilot gameplay, I have my amped weapons ready. I don't think I used it once throughout this entire gameplay, and that would have helped me out so much in this gameplay. But I just wasn't paying attention. I was so focused on what was going on in front of me that I wasn't looking at my heads-up display. Also, the minimap is part of your heads-up display. Pay attention to that as well. I think most people, at least if you're like coming from Call of Duty, which is most people on my channel, you are going to be paying attention to your minimap fairly well. It's more so the other elements of your heads-up display that you really need to pay attention to. And this applies to both a pilot as well as when you're in a Titan. You have lots of things available to you when you're in a Titan. Tons of different weapons and countermeasures and stuff that you have available to you. Make sure you learn what all of those are and how they work and what they mean on your heads-up display. So like the first time you call in a new Titan, for instance, even when you're not in a battle, just play around with what those abilities can do. Don't be afraid to waste them. They do recharge for the most part. So just play around with them. You'll realize that with Ion, for instance, you can press triangle and you'll throw out these trip mines that are great if you want to try and evade an enemy Titan, or if you just want to kill some pilots on the ground, or do some damage to a Titan. And then you have your other abilities as well. Find out what those abilities are and don't be afraid to use them. As for number 3, in the game modes that have grunts and specters, so those are the bots that are AI controlled, don't forget to kill them. They're great for helping you get closer to your Titan faster, and the person with the Titan on the map first usually dominates or does quite well with that Titan. So kill these grunts, but at the same time, don't get tunnel vision on them. I see a lot of beginner players, all they really care about, all they focus on is killing grunts because they're easy targets to kill. Keep in mind they don't count towards your final kill count at the end of the game. And also, they aren't the real threat. The real threats are the enemy pilots. These are the guys you have to always be aware of, pay attention to, and always think about, always have in the back of your head, even while you're killing these grunts. So don't be afraid to kill them. Make sure you are killing these grunts. Just don't get tunnel vision on them, because if you do, you're going to be a very easy target for an enemy pilot to pick off. Moving on to number 4, this one just applies to the bounty hunt game mode, but it's something I had to cover here because I find it quite funny because I didn't listen to this at all for my very first game of this when I was playing at Respawn, and it was quite funny. When you're playing bounty hunt, don't forget to deposit your money. It'll show up on your heads-up display in the bottom left how much money you have from killing grunts as well as enemy pilots and stuff. Make sure you deposit that in the deposit locations when they go active, or else you're not helping your team at all. My very first game of Bounty Hunt when I was at Respawn, I absolutely dominated that game. I got so many pilot kills. I think I got like 30 pilot kills. I was killing grunts like crazy. I just felt like I was the best player around. I felt like I was doing so amazing, but I didn't realize I had to deposit anything. So I didn't really help my team at all, and I ended up at the bottom of the lobby, and I was wondering, like, I thought I did great. Like, these guys must be pros because I thought I did amazing. And it turns out I got most kills in the lobby, but I just didn't deposit anything, so therefore I kind of sucked that game, it turned out. So make sure you're depositing your money in Bounty Hunt. The last tip that I have for you guys is don't be afraid to challenge a Titan as a pilot. It can be a little bit intimidating seeing a big Titan and you're just this little man, basically. It's not as scary as you might think, and rodeoing a Titan, so jumping on his back and pulling out that power core, is actually quite easy to do, so don't be afraid to do that. When the situation is right, of course. Like, obviously, if there's tons of enemies around that are just going to pick you off if you jump on top of that Titan, you might not want to do that. But if you have the opportunity, jump on his back, pull out that core, and then you can jump on his back again and you throw a grenade inside and it actually destroys that Titan. So it can be a very effective way to take out a Titan, so make sure you're doing that in-game. One thing to keep in mind when you are trying to rodeo a Titan is just pay attention and make sure that you catch them if they jump out of their Titan. Because when they jump out of their Titan, you're a very easy target. You're just stuck on top of their Titan and they'll just pick you off. So as you're rodeoing that Titan, always pay attention to see when that enemy pilot is going to jump out. And when they do, then you can jump off, kill them with your gun, and then jump back onto the Titan and continue what you were doing. So there we have it. Those are my top 5 beginner tips for the tech test for you guys here. Hopefully this is going to help a ton of you guys get into your first couple games, get a feel for the game, and not struggle quite as much as you would without these tips. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.